um, you could use it for 2D animation. You could use it for proper motion graphics, different styles of montage, putting videos together, making it very dynamic. There's a lot of ways you could use After Effects. Even within After Effects itself, it has the ability to bring your scenes into like a 3D environment, sort of, where you could make the camera, instead of After Effects, to move through objects. They're very dynamic ways to use it. But like I said, we've streamlined this training to suit civil engineers, which would mostly be tied to motion tracking. Nevertheless, would still have to go through the basic class, understanding After Effects, right? Understanding the interface, the different panels and how they work, the different tools and how you could use them, right? And when you understand the interface, and then we go into creating some motions and all that, using the 12 principles of motion, right? When we get to that stage, I mean, you'll be able to, do literally anything. From there, you could, I don't know how you might want to turn your compass and face any direction in, whatever style of motion graphics you want to create. What you're getting from this particular training would give you that good foundation, right? To be able to, diverge into any other aspect of motion graphics you want to go into, or using After Effects itself. So with that said, today, or this evening rather, because I heard some of you are still on your way back home, would share, I don't know if Tayo is still here, would have to share the After Effects files. Please, if you have After Effects installed already, you could just indicate that you have it installed. If you don't have it installed, also indicate. Or Tayo, how do we do this?
Yeah, okay, so I have shared a link to Google Drive. That link contains installation files for Adobe After Effects and Adobe Illustrator. But here's the thing, if you have After Effects or Illustrator previously installed, you can just go ahead and use those illustrations. You don't need to work with this because it's pretty much the same software. If you are more comfortable with a trial version of the software, that's also fine. If you want, because what we have done is to try to remove the barriers to an extent to getting the training. And we made some software available. It's functional, but um, if we want to subscribe to Adobe, that is something that we can do on a personal level as well. Um, so, but for the purpose, but for those who are unable to subscribe, we have made some software available that you could take advantage of by clicking through and downloading the material that we have on the links in the Google Drive that is linked in the chat right now. I'm also going to add that Google Drive to the participants group just so that we can access it from both WhatsApp and from within Zoom. I hope that gives some clarity on how to access the software required for this program. Okay. Back to you, Ebube or Christian.
All right. So for the installation of After Effects, it's quite very straightforward, very easy. So, I mean, Tayo, you would work with them individually, I guess. if they have challenges with installation, right, you can always reach out to him, right, and we'll get it sorted out. So we have the Mac version. We also have the Windows version. So we're able to get students, we usually call it student version for those who are still learning After Effects or any other software under the Adobe suite. So we call it the student version, where you could install and then you could have this temporary code to actually, make use of the software, right? Pending when you want to actually use it professionally, you could always go to the website and pay for a proper license, right, to make use of it. So it's quite very straightforward to install. You just need the After Effects and the Adobe Illustrator. So the Adobe Illustrator is a vector, vector creating software or vector software. So let's begin while the installation files are being shared. I mean, between today and tomorrow, installation can happen. So as not to waste that time, we'll just start with the training. Now, to create any animation of any sort, there are 12 basic guiding principles. Now, we call these principles of animation. Some call it principles of motion, right? Basically, there are just 12 principles. Some people have even come out to say there are 24. Well, I mean, we've been working with 12 and there's been no problem. Maybe some people like to be innovative, I don't know. But we have 12 basic principles, right? And please, as per disclaimer, right? Because of the industry I function in, I might be a little bit animated, right? So just bear with me when you see me being very animated and all that. It's all part of the fun of the class. So I'm going to play this video and I would explain each principle. As the video plays, I would explain each principle and how they work. Now, these principles are the basic, these principles were actually drawn from real life, but they were exaggerated in a way. Now, every human being don't move like, if you see humans moving and you see a robot moving, you know the difference. The reason is because there is a way that our body moves. But when we bring it into the 12 principles of animation, we have to exaggerate a little bit. For example, every human being turning left or right with the head, right, would move in an arc form. Now, this arc could be exaggerated in motion graphics, not in real life now, but in real life, when you see a person move, if you could, use some dots to track the head, you see it goes in form of an arc. But these are very subtle kind of movements. Even when we walk, there is this, what do you call it? These 12 principles actually apply, right? When we move our bodies, and all that. So I'll be sharing my screen to show you this video. Hello, Tayo. I think you disabled screen sharing.
Oh, okay. Let me fix that.
Yeah.
You should be able to share your screen now.
Okay. Try to share that. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep, I can see your screen.
Okay.
But we can't hear. Can't hear.
Hello, Tayo. Were you saying something?
Yeah, we can't hear what he's saying. We can't access the audio.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear that now?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you.
Oh,
Hi, my name is Emanuele Colombo. I'm a professional motion designer and animator from Italy, and today I'm going to teach you about the principles of animation. The principles of animation were first introduced by two Disney animators, Olney Johnston and Frank Thomas, in their book The Illusion of Life, which was released in 1981. In this book, Johnston and Thomas examined the work of the leading Disney animators from the 1930s and summed up their approach into 12 basic principles. These principles now form the basis of all animation work. Many refer to it as the Bible of animation, and they are relevant for a number of different fields. The most obvious use is for animating a character, but these rules are also useful in all sorts of motion design, like animating text, animating brand logos, and even animating user interfaces. To help us understand the 12 principles, let's see some examples. The first one is squash and stretch. Squash and stretch gives the illusion of weight and volume as something moves. This is done by slightly expanding and compressing forms. This principle is arguably the most important because it really gives a clear sense of gravity as a character moves. The second principle is...
okay. So let me further explain about the squash and stretch. A lot of times when I do my trainings, right, I prefer to use practical means so that you see exactly how it works. But squash and stretch is a principle that helps the viewer understand the nature of that object. Now, we could also use squash and stretch on characters. That's human characters created for animation, right? We could use that for, on objects, bouncing ball, squares. For example, if you want to maybe animate a jelly dropping, or a balloon filled with water, or a basketball, the amount of stretch and squash you use would, suggest to the viewer that this thing is quite very fluffy. So it's actually like a jelly. I think it's a balloon. The amount of squash and stretch you would use on a balloon filled with water would be different from the amount of squash and stretch you would use on a basketball being bounced on the ground, right? And that there are different ways to actually alternate this, where for example, let's say a jelly drops from a bottle, like jam, red jam drops from a bottle. Would animate all these things when we get to using the software, but we'll see how that works, right? When you drop a jelly, the jelly drops from the bottle and lands on the ground. You see, it wouldn't bounce because it doesn't have any rebound ability in it. So it sticks to the ground, but it goes like a blob, 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 like that, right? So that blob, you'll notice that when it stretches, the volume remains the same. Now, the mistake most people do is they just stretch without compressing. So when you stretch on the sides, you compress from top and bottom. When you compress from the two sides, you stretch from top and bottom. So the volume remains equal, right? So that's how squash and stretch works. We use that for characters as well. We use it for objects when you're creating your motion design. For example, you see the very simple example this person used here for a ball. So it looks like the ball is being drawn or magnetized by something to the right, right?
Bending and compressing forms. This principle is arguably the most important because it really gives a clear sense of gravity as a character moves.
Okay, so the next one.
The second principle is anticipation. Anticipation is used to let the audience know that a major action is about to take place. To do this, animators will often work in a smaller action or two right before the major action to signal that something is coming and get the audience excited.
Okay, so that's how anticipation works. It takes away that robotic movement. So you wouldn't see any human being who just goes. I know these things might be very, very subtle to the eye. Like when you're looking at every human being, you know, it got to a point that I started studying human beings. I would just start watching people look like maybe there was something wrong with me, but they wouldn't know that I was actually studying them to, you know, understand or see certain things. So before a person turns to the left, there is always a slight movement to the right. Now, it's not very obvious. No normal human being will just do something like, right? Or go looking up, right? So it happens in a very subtle way. It's more like the muscles of the neck trying to, you know, should I say, control the bones of the neck. So due to that flexing, there is a slight movement on the head before the person could turn, right? There's always a slight movement on the head. Even when the person stops, there's a bounce, like we call it overlapping action, right? Where he goes like, or the object goes like, overshoots the stopping position and then comes back to the stopping position. So that's overhead. Sorry, overlapping, right? Overlapping action. Now, anticipation is anticipate, show that you want to do something, like a baseball player who wants to throw a ball would hold the ball and then lean back and then throw the ball. So him leaning back, that's the anticipation. Okay, so these are just basic motions of life, like I said. So I hope that's clear. Move to the next one.
The third principle is follow-through and overlapping action. Follow-through is the idea that when something is moving and stops, nothing stops all at once. This is a key for adding realism to the scene, giving the impression that an object responds to the laws of physics. So when a character is running and stops, their main body will stop, but the other parts of their body will keep moving for a bit after. The fourth.
Okay.
So when a character is running and stops.
Now, something happened here. There's a combination of anticipation, right? Now, if you want to make this motion
physics.
Yeah,
so when a character is running and stops,
very more engaging, I can decide to add a stretch on this particular rectangle. When, you know, it bends like that, I could add a stretch to show, you know, to add more character to that animation there. You know, so in motion graphics, you combine 2, 3, 4 different principles into one motion, right? So you most likely would use more than one principle when you're animating. It's very unlikely that you just use one principle. So it's very important to know these principles. This makes your animation look very, very, sweet, fluffy, and cute, right?
Their main body will stop, but the other parts of their body will keep moving for a bit after. The fourth principle is arcs. Almost all action in life have a slightly circular motion, and animation should stick to the same principle. When you move your arm or wave your hand, you rarely do it in a perfect straight line. The fifth principle is slow.
Okay. So, I guess you already understand the follow through and overlapping action. I mentioned about the arc earlier. Like I said, the human body moves in the arc form, right? Even your shoulders, your arms are glued to your shoulders. You rotate your arms. They don't just go like robotic, right? That's robotic movements, straight lines, right? But humans go like this, arc. Your head moves in an arc form, right? So some are more pronounced, some are not very obvious, but we always move in form of arc. If this was a 2D animation class, I would have shown you character walking. Everything is always in arcs, right? The hip movements being tracked, right? The legs moving, form of arc. So
a slightly circular motion, and animation should stick to the same principle. When you move your arm or wave your hand, you rarely do it in a perfect straight line. The fifth principle is slow in and slow out. Slow in and slow out refers to the tendency things have to start and stop moving gradually. This is another one designed to add realism to the movement of characters. When something is performing an action, you will draw more frames at the start of the action, less in the middle, and more again at the end of the action, to create this easy in and easy out effect. The sixth principle is timing.
Okay, so let me talk about the ease in, ease out, or slow in, slow out. You could call it ease in, ease out, or slow in, slow out, right? It's basically principles of physics. Now, like I said, everything, all the 12 principles here are based on realism, brought into animation to give it that life, that originality that it needs to have. And things are a little bit more exaggerated just to make it more visually engaging, right? Abstract. Slow in, slow out. A car does not just start from 0 velocity to 100 velocity. There's always acceleration. So it peaks from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3, 4, 5. And by the time it gets to the velocity of 10, right, it starts to tear through space, constant velocity. But before it comes to a stop, it doesn't just go and just stops like that, right? So it goes and then slows down from 10, 9, 8, 7 to 0. So the way we depict this in any animation software, you will always see it on the timeline. There's what we call the timeline. It comes as a curve, right? So we'll get to the stage where we'll look into all those, gradient curves and all that inside of the timeline. When we get to using the software, I'll show you how all those things work. So slow in, slow out, the very important principle. Even if you miss all the other principles, this one is like extremely important. This is like, in fact, I could tell you, right? Take it from me, this is the #1 principle that you must apply in all your motion. Everything you do, slow in, slow out. Very key, very important.
And slow out refers to the tendency things have to start and stop moving gradually. Is timing. This is a technical one. Timing refers to a number of drawings or frames for a given action, which translates to the speed of the action itself. By adjusting the timing of a scene, animators can make that scene look either slower and smoother with more frames, or faster and crispier with less frames.
Okay. So let me also use this to explain ease in, ease out. Now with the depiction at the bottom, on the left side, you have more frames drawn. By the way, I would be using some animation terms here. I will try to explain some animation terms so you could get used to these terms. If you have, you know, a writing material by your side, you could just take down this particular terms, right? Like when you hear frame, when you hear timeline, when you hear keyframes. So there's what we call a frame and keyframe. Okay. So let me quickly explain that so that whenever you hear it during this class, because we'll use that a lot during animation. We use that a lot during animation. So a frame, right? To explain that better, I don't know if you're used to using cameras or, you know, your camera phone, you would see what we maybe some camera phones have this it's called frame rates. Basically, we have 24 frames in every second. So what it simply means in a layman term is there are 24 pictures taken simultaneously in 1 second, right? 24 pictures taken simultaneously in 1 second. Most high definition videos or videos of high quality have 60 frames in 1 second, meaning there are 60 pictures taken simultaneously in 1 second. So it makes the flow of that video appear smoother. So you see, oh, this video is very smooth. Why this one looks like it's jerky? Why? It's the number of frames. That is the number of pictures within 1 second of that video or that animation. Another way to explain it, I believe most of you here would have seen the old school projector that they use tapes. This old school projector. I don't know if anybody has seen that before. You know, if you've not seen that, or if you've seen that, you could signify by saying yes, you've seen that. So I'll be sure that we're flowing. Has anybody seen that before? Old projectors, you know, those circle big tapes. Yes. Hello.
Probably in movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
The movies. Okay.
I remember.
Yes, I remember back in those days when you know, some of these churches do have their film show, like Deeper Life, for example, where they have this open ground crusade, where they have this banner, they bring their, you know, these tapes, they just roll it and they project it with these very old school projectors, right? I used to love going for those crusades anyway, back in those days, just because of the film.
Okay.
Yes. So if you have maybe taken a look at that particular film, you will see that there are different pictures, right, inside of it's like the tapes. The tapes are always very huge. If you look at them in the sunlight, you see different blocks of pictures, you know, tiny blocks of pictures. So you would see about 24 of them. It just depends on how many pictures they decide to put in one frame, in 1 second. So 60 frames in 1 second means 60 pictures in 1 second. I will come back to this video. So let me please show you. Projector. Say, let me see if I could. Okay. Yes, looks something like this.
Maybe, yeah. Okay.
Yes. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, very good. So if you look at this particular,
I see your screen.
yes, this movie tape, for example. So, okay, very good. So this is how these things look like back then, this particular one, right? It's being used in cinemas back then. Those two big circular things you see up there, that's where they put the tape. So if you look at this tape, you will see those boxes. They're very small boxes like that going all through the tape all around. So each of those boxes contain different pictures, right? Now, the standard is 24 frames, so 24 pictures, right? So you see, let me show you some frame by frame images. Or let me even use the Zoetrope, for example. So you would see things like this, a flying bird, or a running dog, or a running cat. So you could see the different shots that were taken. Now, if I decide to play this, you would see this character actually running, right? So these are 12 frames. These are 12 frames, right? If I put these frames and I skip them one by one, it will appear like this character is actually running, jumping, because what I see here is like he's playful, jumping, running, jumping. So this is basically how it works, right? For every video, live video, animation, motion graphics. So just to make that clear, right? Just to make that clear, that's how frames, that's what we call frames. So when you hear, go to frame 24, go to frame 100, go to frame 500, right? What we're saying is, go to a particular picture within the timeline, that particular point in time, right? Now, when you hear the term keyframe, a keyframe is actually, it's like a code, but it's a dot that is used to represent a change of position. It's a dot on the timeline used to represent a change in position. To explain this, for example, let us look at let's say this image above now. How many frames do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 frames. So we have 15 lines there. Now, on frame 1, which is the extreme left, the image above, we can put a dot there to represent the starting position. Then we could move our time to the 15th frame on the extreme right, and then move that particular circular object. We just drag it, right, to any position at all. Within your screen or within your viewport, you drag it to any position at all. And then when you hit your play button, the software automatically fills in the in-between for you. So it would, if you use 24 frames per second, right? So you've already done position for frame 1 and frame 24. For this example, you've done your positioning for frame 1 and frame 15. Now, for frame 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down to 14, they wouldn't have keyframes, but the motion will start from frame 1 and then slide through that timeline and get to the last keyframe. So keyframe is actually a point representing change in position. We'll look at all those things when we get into the software. You understand it better, right? So just to replay this again so you understand timing. Timing is just basically how you arrange your keyframes, So for example, now you can see the keyframes here are arranged. Let's say we have keyframes on frame 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 15. Let's say we have keyframes there, for example. Now I could come down to the second image at the bottom I could move my keyframes backward, you know, create larger space between different keyframes, right? That would determine how my motion would flow. Okay, so timing, for example, if a car is driving and hits the wall, there is a sudden stop. So it would start slow and pick up speed, and by the time it stops very quick. So it doesn't slow in and hits the wall. It stops very quick because it hits the wall. So the way you use your timing also suggests what's happening, right? If you want to actually create an accident scene, for example, maybe you want an object to slide into the screen and smash on a particular text, and for the text to, you know, jump up and then transform into something else. You can't, I mean, if you do the slow in and then you do the slow out and it's trying to come in to hit that particular text, if you slow it down, it takes away that story you're trying to tell, right? It takes away that story you're trying to tell. So you should have this at the back of your mind, right? That the way you arrange your keyframes is very important in the story you're trying to tell. So I'll just replay this so that you could remember.
Frames for a given action, which translates to the speed of the action itself. By adjusting the timing of a scene, animators can make that scene look either slower and smoother with more frames, or faster and crispier with less frames. The seventh principle is secondary action. Little movements that are not essential, but that helps to add meaning to an action.
Okay, to further explain the secondary action. Now, secondary actions are just, I call them passerbys, right? Something is happening in front of the screen, that's the main action. But these little actions supplement what is happening in the main screen that is in front of you, right? So you could have maybe a tire spinning, for example, car tire spinning. The secondary actions might be just the little dots you put, right? Secondary action might be the wind passing. Those little things that just add some extra, you know, depth. So just, you know, look at it like that.
Is secondary action. Little movements that are not essential, but that helps to add meaning to an action. The eighth principle is exaggeration. Exaggeration presents an action in an extreme form for a comedic or dramatic effect. It tries to overstate to evoke a point without ruining the believability of the scene.
So you see that exaggeratedness.
Effect. It tries to overstate to evoke a point without ruining the believability of the scene.
So exaggeration is basically taking something that looks very simple, stretching it beyond its boundary, right? Like, for example, I'll use a human character. I know we've seen Tom and Jerry, right? Tom and Jerry, you know, uses lots of exaggeratedness within the animation itself. A pressing iron falls on his face goes flat. You know, a fry pan hits his head, everything just goes flat. Those are exaggerations, right? He wants to maybe, you know, maybe he's carrying a very heavy object and he's trying to go from upstairs to downstairs, and you know his hand just stretches and goes down to the ground floor. That's exaggeration. So there are different ways you could use that in your motion graphics.
The ninth principle is staging. Staging is the principle that directs the audience attention towards the most important elements in a scene.
Okay. So a lot of animators have this issue, right? It could be that I mean, one who is a professional should actually know how to make use of all these principles, right? Now, when you are animating, you want the audience eye to go to a particular text or a particular shape. Make sure you are not using any distracting text, right? Make sure it is very obvious that that's where you're directing their attention. You could use colors. You could use boldness of that text or shape, size, something that just draws their attention. There's a kind of motion graphics you would see with multiple texts on screen. How do you draw an attention of a person to a particular text? You do what? You emphasize that particular text, make it bold to be on screen, like pop out. So that's staging. You pop that text out, let them see it, right? If you don't want that text to distract them, you take it backward, shrink it down. If you have multiple texts coming out somewhere, maybe on the side of the screen, and you don't want it to be distracting, you could take down the opacity, right? Then whatever you want them to see, you can boost it. Some people use vignettes. Vignettes is like an effect that you do on your screen where, it's like a circular effect where the center is brighter than the edges of your screen. So it has a way of drawing in focus, right? Some people do that as well. So there are different ways to create staging or to stage your animation, right? Which is very important. And the deeper part of this particular staging, right, is understanding what we call rule of thirds and how your screen is being divided. All right, so you could divide your screen into 4. Now, inside of After Effects, all these tools are available. You could switch on your rule of thirds, right? You could switch on your rule of thirds where the screen is divided into 9 rectangles. 9 rectangles. So you have 2 lines cutting vertically and horizontally, 2 lines vertically. So it divides the screen into 9 different squares. And then make sure you're always positioning your.
If we are able to show your screen so that maybe if you show the After Effects interface so that they can understand what you're explaining.
That's fine, no problem. So let me say I do a new composition here, 1920 1080. So what you have here is the viewport, right? I fit the screen. So this is where you could have your different grids. You have different options here. So you could see proportion grid, right? You could see title safe area. So there are different grids you can make use of, right? So we mostly would use this particular grid. You could activate rulers as well and all that. Then under Windows, you could go to view option. Sorry, hold on. Show view options here. So I think there's supposed to be a setting for this, but I'll look into that again. So, but this is where you could access your different options, right? For your grids. All these lines helps you to be able to position your animation properly. You can see this is even more than 9 squares, right? So that's basically how it works, right? And this is transparency. Okay, you have these views. All right, so that I don't waste much time here. This is basically how it would look, right? We would make use of this particular grid style. It's called title safe area. Now, the reason for this is to prevent your animation going out and appearing too edgy to the screen. Now, there are some animations or motion graphics you want to create. Some TV requirements might tell you, oh, we want NTFS or PAL and all that. They would explain to you where your text should fit in. So sometimes they'll make you just make sure that your animation doesn't go beyond the outer box, right? So you have where you put your lower thirds, somewhere around, let's say you're doing a documentary, you want to show the name and all that. These lines would guide you to be able to position it properly. You want to put the logo of the company and all that. You put it somewhere in between these two boxes. It doesn't come into the main area where you do your animation. So, I mean, we'll look into all that when the time comes, right? I will show you how to make use of all these settings as much as, as possible, within the time given to us for this training. So, I mean, After Effects will appear quite intimidating to some people for the first time, but trust me, it's not that complex when you get used to it. It's not that complex. Okay. So that was just to further explain staging, right?
Attention towards the most important elements in a scene. The 10th principle is straight-ahead action and pose-to-pose. These are two different techniques using frame-by-frame animation. Straight-ahead action is where you draw each frame one after another. With pose-to-pose, you draw the extremes, the beginning and end drawing of an action, and then you go on the middle frame and start to fill the frames in between. Straight ahead is better for creating fluid, realistic actions, while pose-to-pose is more effective for dramatic or emotional scenes, where it's more about conveying an idea than a sense of realness.
Okay, oh, solid. Now, these 12 principles that are being talked about here are also used in 2D animation. So, what you see here, right, is mostly used in 2D animation, but it can be used in motion graphics because there are people who do frame-by-frame motion graphics, right? Frame-by-frame motion graphics. So it's more like, it's animation, right? Animation is like a broad word. A lot of people think animation is just character animation. Now, under animation, we have motion graphics animation, we have character animation, we have all types of animation, right? So these are the principles, it's general, right? What he explained here mostly would work for people who do frame by frame, that is hand-drawn animation or character animation. Now, if you're doing motion graphics, you wouldn't be, drawing on each frame and all that. No. For motion graphics, it's different. You're working with objects, right? You're working with elements and objects you already created from a different software, and you're bringing it in to just add motion to them, right? Or you're bringing in a video and adding this solid and shapes on that video. So I just wanted to point that out. Even this solid drawing, right? It mostly works for 2D animation, or 3D animation, character animation. Right. So I just needed to mention that.
The 11th principle is solid drawing. Solid drawings is all about making sure that animated forms feel like they are in a 3-dimensional space, even though they are shown in 2 dimensions. The last principle is appeal. Animators should strive to create something interesting and compelling to audiences.
So that's basically what it's all about. The principles of animation. Those 12 principles, let's I don't know if we'll take questions now or I'll just demonstrate a few, a few things using those principles. If you have any questions at this point, you could ask. Hello, any questions?
Yeah. And if you have any thoughts that you have regarding your expectations and things that you want to, you'd like us to delve into, this is also a good time to bring that up.
What? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think, well, my question will, my suggestion will be putting us through how to do the installation. Probably you write us something step-by-step way of installing the software. Then maybe after installation, how we're going to use it. And maybe from there, we'll start asking questions if we have issues. Right now, I just see introduction to what we're about to learn. So I don't think there's much question from me in particular. So probably maybe any other person might have one or two things before me. I think I'm good.
I have a question.
Okay.
Good
Please go ahead.
evening.
Good evening.
Okay. For this timing, number of frames, does it mean the higher the frames, the higher the quality of the video?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a simple answer. Yes.
Okay. If I may come in on that, just to give a little context. So there are, in every second of film, right, for as long as we're working with 24 frames per second, there are 24 frames in 1 second. So if we added more frames to an action, say we were moving a circle from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, if we moved it in 6 frames, it would be faster than if we moved it in 48 frames. Think of a frame as a fraction of a second. Does that make sense? So if we added more frames, we'll have slower movements. If we added fewer frames, we'll have faster movement, because in the same way, if we added more seconds to a movement, we will have slower movement. But if we achieve the same movement in fewer seconds, then the movement will be faster. So it's just a measure of time. Yeah. I hope that gives some clarity.
Yes.
Frames are essentially just a measure of time.
Yes, thank
I
you very
hope
much.
that's clear. Okay. So that you don't get confused.
Thank you.
Right? So that you don't get too confused about it. So like these things, they're better shown than explained, and the reason is because there are different ways these things work, right? When you have more frames, like Ty has said, let's say, for example, you have a video that has 24 frames, and you have another video that has, let's say, 60 frames. Now, when you watch those two videos, or I'm talking about videos now, because it can be different when you start to even animate raw objects inside of After Effects, right? So when you have a 60 frame video, and you have a 24 frames video, right?
Okay.
When you watch these two videos, at least every second of that video, you would notice that there is this very smooth, there's this smoothness with the 60 frames video compared to the 24 frames video. Now, if this character is walking and he lands his feet on the ground every 1 second, on the 60 frames video, that same character will land his feet on the ground the same 1 second. Now, it becomes different when you try to stretch that same video inside of After Effects, because there's a possibility to stretch a video that has, let's say, for example, a video that has 60 frames. You could stretch that video. Let's say if the video is 1 second, 60 frames in 1 second, you could stretch that video into 3 seconds, and those 60 frames will be shared into 3 seconds. So it will be that you're dividing 60 divided by 3. So each second will now carry 20 frames, right? Because you're stretching that video, and that video will appear what? Slower, because it's now being stretched into 3 seconds instead of 1 second. Do you understand it now?
Okay. Yes, I do. Yes.
Yes. So that's where it could get tricky, right? The beautiful thing about it is when you have more frames, it's easier to do slow motion and it still appears neat. But when you have a video that has 24 frames, and you try to slow down the video by stretching the time, the video will appear very jerky. So you see a particular position of that character will stay on screen for about 3-4 frames. It will look like there's a skipping happening, like skip, 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 skip. So it appears very jerky, right? It's not smooth. So these things are very tricky, but when we get into using the software, we'll look into all these areas and how, you know, to keep your video in the best quality possible. Yes. Any other question from anybody?
Yes. One more thing. Although you said when we start making use of the software, we understand better. But then I was jotting down little things you're saying. This gets what you're saying on it. Did you get it? Did you get it?
Sorry, were you asking a question? Sorry, we didn't hear the question.
I said, okay, I said I was jotting down some things while I was explaining the principles of animation, and this straight ahead and post to post like that. So I just wanted him to explain briefly on it.
Okay, straight ahead and post to post.
Yes.
Okay. I was trying to. Okay, I think what I explained there was it works more for when you're doing character animation. Now, okay, let me explain to you. So I would use characters to explain, then you have a better idea. So imagine there's what we call in-betweens, right? There's what we call in-betweens in animation. In-betweens are actions that happen between a particular pose and another particular pose. So let's say I use a human being, for example. my first pose would be maybe when he's walking down the street. My first pose would be when his 2 feet are on the ground, right? You have the right foot in front, the left foot behind, right? Both feet are on the ground. Then you have the left arm. Okay, that's the right foot is in front. Then the left arm has to be in front. The right arm has to be behind. So that is a pose. All right. That is a pose. Now, if you're using objects, it will just be a particular position you put the objects in. Now, why I said it works more for people who do frame by frame is because they have to actually draw or move bones of that character on that particular frame. They draw a circle, for example, and that circle, they want to make it move from left to right. So they have to keep drawing on each frame. Now, pose to pose is you draw the first circle. Then you move to the 24th frame. If you're using 24 frames in 1 second, you move to the 24th frame. You draw another circle. For the character now, you move to the 24th frame. Then you switch the 2 legs. You move the right foot that was in front, you move it behind. You move the left foot that's behind, you move it forward. Then you switch the arms as well. So when you toggle between the first frame and the last frame, you just have 2 different poses. So one is in frame 1, the other one is in frame 24. Now, nothing is in between yet, right? Nothing is in between yet. Now, there are 2 ways. There's the automatic way, there's the manual way. Automatically, After Effects will fill in those gaps for you. That's what we call in-betweens. Automatically, After Effects will fill in those gaps for you. Let me share my screen to just, depict this.
Thank you.
To make you understand that, to make you understand it better. So I share this again. Okay, so let's say I create a simple shape. This thing is blocking my view. How do I hide this? Or okay, let's mix controls. Okay, let's go. Let's go to show this. Okay. All right. So let's say I draw a simple shape here. Just give that simple color. So I have to bring this down a little bit. So in After Effects now, see on this timeline here.
Okay, looks like we lost Ebube for a moment there. Hello, Ebube, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we might have lost him for a moment there. I'm sure he'll reconnect. Yep, that's it. He'll be back in a minute. Okay. So, well, while we're waiting for Ebube to reconnect, so how many of us are looking to download After Effects from the Adobe website, or to download the student files we shared?
I think I'll download the student file that was shared.
Okay, so once that's done, the first thing you'll notice is that these are archive files. I'm presuming that we're familiar with WinRAR, right? Are we all familiar with archived files archived using WinRAR? Do we all have WinRAR installed? It's like WinZip
Yeah.
for compressing files.
Yes,
Yes, sure.
Great. Okay. So the first thing would be to uncompress or unarchive those files so that you can actually work with them. And then what I will do is to let me see. Maybe I can do a quick walkthrough while we're waiting for Ebube. Just be boy. Let me see. Because the first thing you would need to do would be to, so once that's out, then you will notice that. Now, another question, is there anybody here who's using a Mac? Any Apple users, any Apple computer users in the house? Are we all Windows people? Hello? If you're using a Mac at this time, please speak up now or forever hold your peace. Eh? Is anybody using a Mac? Okay, it looks like we're all Windows people. That's amazing. That makes things a whole lot
Yes.
simpler. Yes, okay. All right. The first step will be to unarchive After Effects 2024. After Effects, for the most part, it would work with I assume that we have as much as 8 GB of RAM on our computers, because most modern computers come with nothing less than 8 GB of RAM these days. Am I correct? I think that's about sorry?
Yes.
Fantastic. So it will still work even if you have 4 GB of RAM, because I think that's the absolute minimum that's available around, but it might be a little slower. So the first step, sorry, I'm working from 2 computers, but give me a sec. So the first step would be, okay, Ebube, you're back?
Yes. I was kicked out for a bit though.
Yeah, sorry, network issues.
I
All
don't
right.
know, man.
Okay, I'll just let you continue from where you stopped. I was walking the teams through the process of installation with the files that we shared. These are disk image files, right? But I think we should be able to, simply by double clicking, we should be able to access. So by double clicking the disk image files, you should be able to access the content. And I think, let me see, I think you will be clicking through autoplay, right, Ebube? Right, just to be clear. And that
Autoplay or
that will be for After Effects.
what file? What file are they working? Do they already have the After Effects file? Installation file?
Yes, that's for those who have downloaded from the drive, from the link we shared.
Sorry, I have a
Okay.
question. What do you have in 2019 After Effects
You're good to go.
software?
You're good to go.
Okay, because I know every year they always have these updates on their softwares. Do you think we'll be missing out if we have 2019 instead
Oh,
of
really?
2024?
Nope. You're not missing out anything unless you're trying to use generative AI in your road construction projects, which is unless you're looking for those features. But no, we're not. You're not missing much. Trust me, you're not missing much.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Bube, take it away from here. I would mute my mic.
Okay. I think you would help you help them with the installation process. So let me just finish on what I was explaining, passing to the frames, pose to pose, and straight ahead. So for the, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Kind of.
Okay.
We can only see your timeline.
Yes, I had to do it like that just to make it
Okay.
I
Cool.
could take it off.
Cool.
So
No, it's fine.
I have my
Cool.
timeline around here, right? You can see my timeline here. So this is the shape I just created. I could turn this eye off just to turn it off. It's still there, but it's just turned off. Right. So if I have any audio, this doesn't have audio, so I can't turn the audio off. I could lock this so that I won't be able to, move it around when I lock it. So, I mean, we'll look more into this. Quite very tiny icons around here that might seem very confusing. A lot of these things you might not even use, right? They come in handy for certain things that are very important ones, which I will definitely, show you how to make use of. Like for the motion blur, and maybe for this one, for the shy tool, like you don't want this to show, you could just turn on the shy. So when you click on shy here, it hides it. You can see it's hidden, but it's still showing here, but it's hidden. So I could turn it off, turn that off. So, so back to pose, right? Like I said, After Effects does this job automatically for you, right? So, get straight to that. After Effects does this job for you, where you don't need to start to draw on every frame. So we're on frame 0 here, and you can see it on the timeline here, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. You see that. Now, when you move to frame 1, you can see 0, 1. That's frame 1. Here you have 0 to F. That's frame 2. Is also indicated here, right? Frame 3, frame 4, frame 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like that, until you get to, let's say, this is frame 20, frame 21. So you could see here, you could see 22. So now we're on frame 22, right? This. Now frame 23. Immediately we get to frame 24. This number changes to 1.00, meaning we're working with 24 frames per second here. All right. Now, if we go to this composition setting, you would see frame rate 24. You can see that. So we are working with 24 frames. We could always change it here to 30 frames, 50 frames, 60 frames, 120 frames. But for smooth motion graphics, if you're working with vector files, most times we work with 29.97 or just 30 frames per second. So we're working with 24. immediately you can see that my time indicator, this pin, this blue pin here, it's called time indicator. If I change this to, let's say, 30 frames in 1 second, you will see that when I move it backward, now I have 29 here. That's frame 29. Frame 28, 27, 26. So now this is 24. This is 24 frames. Now see where 24 frames stop here. And this was our 1 second initially, but now our 1 second has stretched down to this point, right? So from, see the amount of space that it took. Now, when you play this video, it will still appear as 1 second of the video, but it will be smoother than the 24 frames video. So I'll just go back to 24 frames. So now we have our 24 frames here. So let's say on the 24th frame now, let me just show you something. We have a position here. So for After Effects, we turn on this timer. Whenever you click this time icon here, I don't know, it looks very tiny. You know, I don't know how I could zoom this in. Let me see. Can't zoom it in like that. Okay. Or if I do this, it's not very clear. So it's quite very tiny. It looks like a stopwatch. When you click it, you can see it turns blue and toggles on like a stopwatch. Right? It looks like a stopwatch. Now, when I do that, you will see a tiny dot here. Now, this dot means this dot is actually a keyframe. So that's keying this first position. Right? Now, if I go to the frame, okay. So we're working with 24 frames. If I go to the 24th frame here, I may have to reduce this, so it's 24 frames exactly. Frame pumps work area. So you have 24 frames here, right? So if I go to the 24th frame and I move this circle to this point, now you see another keyframe here. So we have one here, we have one here. So now, like I said, After Effects covers the in-between for you automatically. Right, automatically. You could see that while I move this time indicator pin around in between the two keyframes, you would easily see that this thing, the object itself, is moving. That's automatic. Automatically, it's connecting the two dots to say, okay, you move from here to this point. So I'm filling in this space for you, if that's what you want. But if you don't like this position, you could come maybe at the middle here and change the position, maybe to move up. Now, when you do that new position, a new keyframe forms here. So now you have 3 different positions where it goes from 1 to 2 and down to 3. Okay, it's very simple, very straightforward. 2 to 3. Now, let me show you something interesting here. Let me just zoom into this. I will show you those in between dots. Now, remember that we have 3 positions. That's 3 keyframes. 1, 2, and 3. That's what you see on these viewports here. 1, 2, right? That's this one that I'm moving right now. This one is the first one. That's the first keyframe. And then the last keyframe is where it is positioned now. So if I move it away from there, I could easily select that last keyframe. So you could see that the keyframes on the viewports appear larger than some very tiny dots. I don't know if you can see those tiny dots. So there are tiny dots, right? So let me start from here, for example. from the first keyframe, when I move further one frame, you can see it comes to a very tiny dot. There's another tiny dot here where my mouse is. There's another tiny dot here. There's another tiny dot here.
Okay.
And it just goes like that. Yes, those tiny dots are the automatic in between that the software does for you, right? So if you count these dots, there will be up to 24 dots. That's 24 frames. So I'm just trying to go nitty-gritty because of your question. Right, so if you can count these dots, you see they're up to 24. I don't spend that time counting. So every single frame is represented with all these single dots here. Now, when you add a keyframe, that's when it becomes as large as this, right? If I decide to delete this particular keyframe at the middle, it goes off. So it just becomes an ordinary dot serving as an in-between. Okay, there are 24 dots. 24 dots. So that's how it works. Okay. From left to right. Now, when you're working with a different software that you do your in-betweens manually, then you will create from here, right? So for example, let me show you how that will work. I could easily convert these keyframes to stepped. What we call stepped. Toggle keyframe hold. So you can see now I changed the keyframe style, right? So that you can see when you're working manually. Now, in After Effects, it's not advisable you do what I did when you're animating. I'm just doing this to show you how a manual software will work. Maybe a software like, say, Photoshop. You could use Photoshop for animation, right? It's frame by frame, manual animation. So let's say I create a pose here or an object on frame 1. When I go to frame 2, nothing would happen. Frame 3, 4, 5, 6, down to the 24th frame where I create a new position. So you only have 2 positions like this. Now, manually, you have to come to frame maybe 4, for example, and then manually move this up. Okay, so you have 2 positions like this now, right? I can manually come to number 8, frame 8 rather, pull this down, right? Go to frame 14, up, go to frame 20, bring it down. So when you play this, it gives you, can you see that? It gives you that zigzag motion because of how I did it. So now this is what we call pose to pose, right? Pose to pose.
Okay.
Yes. So from one pose to the other, which is from frame 1, there's a pose. Frame 24, there's another pose. That's pose to pose. Then you come and then do your fill-ins, in-betweens. You fill up the in-betweens with a new position, right? So that's how it works for pose to pose. But for straight ahead is you're on, let's say you create an object on the first frame, right? You go to frame, this is frame 1, so this is frame 0, sorry. This is frame 1. On frame 1, I move this to new position. Frame 2, I move it to another position. Frame 3. So I go from frame to frame, moving from one position to the other. Can you see that? So this is what we call straight ahead, right? Now, straight ahead, we use that to determine the style or the flow. So there are certain things that you do straight ahead for. There's certain things, like, for example, when you're trying to create fire, like the flow of fire is very distorted, right? You don't need to do post for fire, straight ahead for fire. Okay, you just do straight ahead for fire, right? You just do straight ahead for fire. That's how it works. Can you see that?
Okay.
So this is how straight ahead works. You can see that I don't have the final pose here yet.
Yes.
So I could just delete this. Now, After Effects actually does your in-betweens for you. All right. After Effects does your fillings for you. Your in-betweens rather. So from here to here, and then you see the flow. Can you see?
Okay.
So that's how it works. Do you understand better now?
Yes. Yes, it's better.
Okay.
Hopefully, when we get into it, I'll learn better.
Okay.
When we start making use of the software. Thank you very much. I think I understand what you're saying.
All right. So I don't know if there's any other question, or Tayo, you could, say one or two things, if there's anything, so that we can look at how to go about installing the software, any challenges.
Yeah, sure. Let me pick them up from my side. Okay, sure. So we were earlier on, I highlighted that the first thing we'll need to do is to unarchive it. And when that is done, we will have a file called within, so we will have this list of files, and one of them will be a disk image. Okay. That disk image, we are simply to double click on it, and that will take us through the rest of the process. Give me a sec. I'm just trying to find some space to download this thing, just so I can demo it for us. There we go. Have we all downloaded the material that's linked? Or do we have any one of us who has actually downloaded the material? Hello? Has anybody downloaded
I think Engineer Oludayo mentioned he has. If he's still online,
yes.
we can use his as the demo for everyone.
Okay,
No,
great.
I've not downloaded yet. Though.
Okay.
I'm using my phone for this meeting, so I will revert back to my PC to download. Yeah, so I've not downloaded.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay. Okay, so first of all, what you do is when you eventually download, let me navigate to where I have it on my computer. I'm just downloading on this computer because I uploaded from a different PC. Oh, sorry guys, it will take some time. So the first thing that we will see is, I'm going to stop sharing video just so I can work from the other computer. So the first thing we will see is a disk image, and when we double click on that disk image, the image will work just like you have a CD-ROM. Okay.
Sorry, Tayo.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to share your screen on the other computer? Find a way to do that.
Let me see. I'll have to give me a second. Well, okay, it's not impossible. I'll have to log. No, you know what? I'll just pause this. I'll keep this going, and I'll join from the other computer. Okay. Okay, well, while we're waiting for things to come up over here. Oh boy, oh boy. Hmm. I don't have Zoom installed on that computer, so it's oh boy. Yeah, it's a bit of a process. Let us see. We're able to launch from here. Just yet. Let's see. Yes. Okay, maybe we got something. Oh, let's see. It's a bit of a it's taking its sweet time connecting. Sorry, guys, but taking much too long. Oh, boy. It's really taking its time, guys. I apologize. Hmm. It's really taking so much time. Maybe. Yeah. Oh, yes, that's the better. Why are you taking so long? It's time for my concept. Apologies, guys. I apologize for this. It's you know, it just
Okay.
we
I'll tell you why
yeah.
you're doing what you're doing. Somebody drop a comment
Okay.
He says, "Hi, Christian. Nice to meet you on this project. Please, if it wouldn't be too much of a bother, can you whet our appetite with some samples of related civil engineering motion graphics you will be able to do after going through the course? It helps build anticipation." Okay, so I'll just respond to that. I could show you a couple of videos, right? That maybe the ones that I've done, or I could show you
Oh,
something related to what you'll be able to achieve, like an example of the video you sent me, Tyre.
mhm.
You know, what I
Right.
came to understand about these projects is quite very niche, like very, very niche. How to draft different. Normally, generally, you just do After Effects training. Now,
Right.
it's one thing to know how to use the software, then you can then branch off into whatever niche you want to use it for, right? Like I said earlier
Yeah.
during when I was talking, I said After Effects can be
Yeah.
used for a lot of things. You could use After Effects for your post-production, that is for movie production, as your visual effects slash compositing software, right? Now, what that means is you could do things like particles, effects, you know, maybe let me just use a normal movie that we know,
Um,
let's say Transformers, for example, and then you see them shooting this
right.
fire beam from the hands. You could use After Effects to create those fire beams. Use After Effects to add,
Christian,
yes,
sorry,
yes,
just a sec, because I got this video that I could just share real quick. Um, I think this is probably something along the lines of what they're thinking about.
okay. You want me to, are you playing that video and sharing? Okay.
Yeah. Can you all see my screen? There's
Yes.
something. This
Yes.
this is a typical scenario in which there's a road construction project that the land exists, right? And then these guys are trying to explain what the project will look like. Yeah. Oh goodness, okay, give me a sec. I need to do this. Oh, okay. Sorry, I've got a couple of controllers here. I'll just relaunch this video so you can see the screen as this. I think it starts from somewhere around here. This is where motion graphics really kicks in, right? Showing in visual terms what the project is going to look like. And I understand that, you know, these are the key concerns. We've recently heard about the demolition of the landmark resort, of part of that landmark resort, and visualization such as this will make it crystal clear to everyone the environmental impact and the infrastructural impact of the road construction project, because you'll be able to show in clearly readable terms where the road will pass through, what the right of way will need to be, and so on and so forth. So this is something like what we are looking at for this project. Kristen, are we on the same page? Does that illustrate what you were trying to say?
Yes. So I don't know. This is your video. I'm not sure I can see it playing. Why are you playing it?
Oh, are you serious? You're not seeing it play?
It's kind of skipping or something. I think it's skipping.
Okay, that's probably it's skipping. That's probably a network issue. You know what? What I will do is perhaps I'll make the link available to everyone just so you can get a sense of what's possible. I also shared the link with you, or maybe you could share it from your side so that we all can see what's possible. I had initially shared it with you because I
Let me
think
see if I could open it.
videos are playing much better from your side. Yeah.
Okay.
DDI moves high volumes of traffic through an intersection without increasing the number of lanes and traffic signals. This movement provides easier access to an interstate. Simply follow their lane to the opposite side of the roadway. Both directions of traffic drive on the opposite side of the road before crossing back and resuming their original pattern against oncoming traffic, flowing turns when entering and exiting an interstate. Eliminating the left turn against oncoming traffic. Raised concrete island where lanes crisscross will guide you and keep you from turning into a wrong lane. Cross in front of oncoming traffic that has stopped on your right at a traffic signal. Then you.
Okay. So, someone is asking if the timing could be moved forward from 3 to 5 p.m. Would answer to that shortly, please. So can you guys see my screen? Or let me even know if you can hear me. So I'll explain this.
Can we all see Christian's screen?
Yes, yes, we can see and we can hear you
Great.
loud and clear.
Great.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
So I'm aware that there are some other softwares that I mean a couple of you make use of. You could also get images, footages, video footages, or images like this. You could also export from what's the name of that software that you guys use, where you could export as vectors. That's why we're making use of the Adobe Illustrator. You could bring those your exports into Adobe Illustrator, arrange them how you want. I would also, I mean, during the course of this training, I'll show you how to also get some images, templates, vectors online, icons and all that, you know, bringing them into After Effects and animating them to actually, you know, sell the message you're trying to pass across, animate the message you're trying to pass across. So on a road like this, you're trying to maybe describe the flow of traffic, you know, using lines, using indications, using objects, you know, just making it very clear, using texts. If you have a video, for example, to be able to motion track that particular, maybe a car is moving on the road, you want to motion track that particular car and label something on it while it's moving, show you how to do that, you know, and all those, you know, those kind of stuff. What I was explaining earlier was that After Effects can be used for a whole lot of stuff, right? The major thing is when you know how to use the software, you can do literally anything. You could even go as far as, you know, understanding the aspects of VFX and using your After Effects to create some extra visual effects. Like, let's say you want fire to pop out of this road now. You know how to do that when you want to, you know, take it further, to use some extra effects. After Effects is very deep and robust. Multiple plugins that can help you do some extra, you know, extra crazy stuff. You know, you could use After Effects to make this image turn to something else. Let's say fire on the road, or snows falling, or I mean, literally anything, right? Literally anything. So the aim of this particular training is to streamline the learning to basically how to use you know, After Effects for depicting, you know, indicating certain things on the road, you know, for just civil engineering, basically. That's what I mean. I understand that this training is for, is a niche. So everything that I'll be showing you, you can use that to create any other thing, right? So on the last week, that's the 4th week of this training, then we'll go into, you know, this particular niche proper, where I'll show you how to use motion tracking and all that. So that's basically it.
Okay. Right.
I could show you some videos that are outside civil engineering that are very dynamic, right? I wouldn't assure you that you can create such kind of videos after this training, because it's not streamlined to that kind of training. But I can only say that everything you learn from here, you could apply when trying to, you know, go further to that level or to that angle, let me put it that way. Because all these, the different niche, you know, the different angles, you know. So that's basically it.
Okay. Well,
You'll be on the left side of the bridge. The opposing lanes on your right.
Yeah, fortunately, I was able to connect via Zoom. I know that we are completely out of time right now. And we are already 4 minutes over. So for the purpose of showing the installation process, would you be willing to stay on for about 10 more minutes, just a quick walkthrough, right?
Yeah, I think for those who can stay, we'll appreciate that they do. Maybe we'll have a short section of this explainer video of how to install the software, cut out, and then share it on the platform, so that people can also go through it offline. And then before the next class, they should have been able to get the hang of it.
Yeah, well, okay. That's fine. Anyways, we'll have recordings of this. And thanks, Ebube. Thanks for sharing these videos. These are very informative. And as we can see, the motion graphics use case is something that is being done all over the world to illustrate road construction projects. And where we are, just going to Kristen, when you're able to, you can allow me to share my screen, or maybe I'll just, yeah. Okay. So okay, so this is what's going on. Can you all hear me? Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, we can.
Thank you. All right. So basically, I've got this autoplay, okay, autoplay here. So where I have got my mouse. So I'm probably not going through the entire process because I already have the software installed here. But the idea is when you double click on autoplay, it brings up this interface. And now what you want to do though, during installation processes like this is you want to be offline. You want to your data to be switched off just to allow this process run through. So on airplane mode. So if you can see my
Did you say
screen, to bring
on or switch off?
switched off. So you're on airplane mode, right?
Okay.
So and when you get to this interface, what to do is to simply install. And the process will run through and should be able to start using the tool. I think that's pretty much it for this. So it's basically as simple as that, as far as I can tell. So just that, double click this file. Let me see, you know what, let me take you back in here. When you extract, you will have this folder. You will have After Effects 2024. Likely at the top of the list, you'll have the disk image. Double click that. It's going to be the only significant file. Every other file in that folder is 1 kilobyte. So double click on that. It would create a disk image, give you this interface that looks like, it will basically take you here. So now you have a virtual disk that contains all of this information. You double click on autoplay, it takes you to the oh my goodness, it takes you to the installation interface. I'm supposed to stop that now, and basically that, and then you click install, and that takes you through the process. If there are any questions, don't hesitate to reach out on the WhatsApp group, and we'll take it from there. I know that Christian is eager to show you some of the more wonderful things that we can do with motion graphics. And do we want to put it to the vote? Because my thinking is that maybe we care more about seeing how motion graphics will impact on our road construction projects, but or do we want to see the more wonderful things that we can do with motion graphics? Hello? And before we go into all of that, first question is, are we clear on this installation process? Just to be clear, just to get on the same page. Are we clear on the installation process?
Tayo, please, can I see that Adobe 2024, that folder? Could you open
Yeah,
it?
sure. So this is what we have. I'll take you back there. So it starts. Oh, give me a sec. So this is where I have it in my environment. So this is what you would have. This folder.
Sorry. I mean that particular place where you were before. There is a folder above, but the first folder.
Okay, this one. Or are you referring to
where you have the autoplay?
Oh, okay, gotcha. Let's go there. Okay. Yeah, basically this guy. So this guy.
Yes, so that first folder there.
Yep.
Above. Yes, the first folder there at the top.
Yep.
Okay. So you have
Yep.
setup there.
Yes.
No,
but
open that folder now. The one above.
yeah. Yep.
Yes, you have the setup. Yes. Could you double click on that?
Okay. Let's see where this leads us. It's basically leading us to the same place.
Do you see any pop-up dialog box?
Yep, it's leading us here, leading us to the installer, essentially the same thing.
Okay, you see this one is a bit different, right? It's different from the other one. That one, the one outside would work with, I think work with the internet. But this one
I see.
will give you more options, I think,
Okay.
to install without the internet.
Oh,
So that's the set. That's
fantastic.
the one.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Thanks a lot. That was a good one. Because to be honest with you, I have a different installation of the same software. So I am, you know, I haven't walked through this particular installation before. So I really appreciate your comment right there. Yes, please. Let's go with this direction and let's get it done. So do we all have clarity on how to go about installing Adobe After Effects? Are we all clear on how to install Adobe After Effects?
Yeah, a bit.
Okay, well, no worries. If there are any questions, we have tons of experts here to help us out. Now, I'm serious. It's not just me. So please, let's go for it. Let's attempt to install this software ahead of the class. And if we have any questions or issues, let's raise them up on the group. The people in the group, I'm there in the group as well. As you know, we are in the group to support one another and help get this thing done. Okay, so let's move forward with it. We're now 14 minutes over. We will try to not go over in subsequent classes, but thank you so much for your patience. I know that there is a request to move the trainings back 2 hours to 3 p.m. Do we want to do a quick show of hands on whether that's feasible? Because my guess is that some of us may be at work at that time. I'm stopping my share now. Is 3 p.m. feasible for us? Is that something we can work with? Can we do a quick show? Let me, you know what? I think there's a poll functionality here. Yeah, create a poll. Yeah, if we can just do a quick. Quick poll just before we go, and please let everyone please vote. It's not going to take a minute. Oh. Yeah, it appears that most of us, some of us have left. Yeah, but I think, yeah, I think okay, you know what? Folks have advised that it's better to have this on the group. So we will meet on the WhatsApp group and we'll take it from there. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been great having this class. Next class, we will continue to improve in our understanding of things. Don't worry if things seem overwhelming at this time. There is a lot of information that is prepared for you, and we're going to enjoy this ride together, God willing. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to sign out now and have a beautiful rest of the day.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Christian. Thank you very much, Kyle. Thank you very much, everybody on the call.
Thank you. Lovely night. Right.
Thank you.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night. Night.